You're wearing your atoms.
Oh, yeah, these are my atoms. And are those your atoms?
Those are my atoms.
Yeah, we got different kinds. I got the white stripe.
I don't like the white
You got
base.
the black stripe. This is more of a young person thing.
Oh, yeah. So this is more of an old person thing.
No, that's an any person thing.
Okay, good. Then I'm all right. I mean, I'm just anybody.
Yeah.
And you?
I don't see older people wear the
Yeah,
white stripe,
they wouldn't.
right?
No, they wouldn't be seen in them.
It's kind of childish. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got the white base.
Yeah, see? We're both little kids over here.
It's the Draftsman Show. Yeah.
This is the Draftsmen podcast. I'm Marshall Vandruff, and this is Stan Prokopenko. Stan, would you like to introduce? Oh, I blew
You
it.
just introduced me. Hi, it's me.
What are we going to talk about
Can
today?
I start with a what's your thing?
Oh, yeah.
wanna
Start
drink
with
it.
your what's your thing.
I brought all my little concoctions that I drink throughout the day.
No, let me get this straight.
Yeah.
You drink all 4 of these concoctions.
There's days where I drink all of them. Yeah.
And the one that looks empty is clear water or is it air? Okay.
I think it's called Golden Milk, but this one says Golden Mine. But this is almond milk, turmeric, MCT oil, ginger, DHA omega-3s, and prebiotics. It's 100% plant-based.
It sounds rich.
It is. It's actually pretty rich. It's
It
golden.
looks dense.
Golden milk.
The shock on Marshall's face.
You put it into the cup and it just goes right through the bottom of it. Oh,
That looks
that's
so
just
yellow.
beautiful.
It's delicious. Do you want to try it before I dig
No,
into it?
thank you. But
You don't want to try
no,
it?
I've got my coffee and I'm happy here.
Yeah. So that's that. That's if I want something rich. This is just almond or coconut water.
Oh, coconut water. Yeah,
but
it's famous stuff. Why is it slightly pink?
Oh, because there's something that they usually put in coconut water to make it not pink.
Oh, is that right? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
I forgot what it is. It's not something bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's to make it not pink. I think it has another purpose.
But a little bleach. Sort of.
No, not bleach. And this is matcha.
And you've been drinking matcha for a long time because I remember when we first
I
were.
love matcha. And again, remember, matcha in Russian means urine.
I remember you telling me that.
Say that
It's
every time, right?
left an impression
It's
with
matcha.
many. Yeah.
Matcha. And then I got this little blue thing. I have a bunch of different. This is like a little shot. And I have all sorts of different flavors. This one just happens to be blue because it's got spirulina in it.
Blue spirulina.
Yeah. And this also has ginger and lemon. Most of the shots I have ginger juice in them. So they're all like super spicy and stuff.
What do they do to you?
Ginger is good for anti-inflammatory
I didn't know that.
stuff.
I love
So it's good
ginger.
for just my back and allergies.
I
and
didn't know that.
Whatever other. Oh, yeah, my gut. I got like sensitive gut.
I just like it because it's hot.
Have you had freshly juiced ginger just straight up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is good for you.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It helps me stay hydrated because I don't drink enough water. I also drink water, but this helps me drink more water.
Because it's spicy and so you have
No,
to
it's
drink
just
water.
fun.
Oh, I'm not sure I get it.
No? Come on. You get it.
But small amounts of that hydrate you or they get you drinking
all
more
of it
water?
together, just liquids throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, the matcha, it's got caffeine in it, so maybe it's not as hydrating as like coconut water.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. That's
I am impressed with your lineup of drinks.
all different colors. 'Cause
All
it's
different
fun.
colors, all different purposes.
Yeah.
All
You gotta-
hydrating.
If you got a problem and you want to create new habits, you gotta
Drink something.
what? No, do you remember?
Make it fun.
My advice for
If you got a problem, you have to change your cues, your incentive, your response, your satisfaction.
you remove friction.
You remove friction. That makes
That
it
was my
easy to
big
do
thing,
it,
yeah.
right? Yes, I do remember
If you're
that.
trying to set a habit, like stay more hydrated, you want to make it so that you want to do that, not so that it's a constant uphill battle.
Was that from Atomic Habits?
Where I got it, there was just a YouTube video of someone that was talking.
Can you remind us again
It
of
was in the habits episode that
then
I have a link to
Yeah.
that actual video in the habits video.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is how, it helps me stay hydrated. Be like, ooh, what's that fun thing I could put in my mouth? Let's talk about long-term projects.
long-term projects? I'm interested.
The reason this came up was because you finally finished one of yours.
Longest term project of my life.
Is it?
Fatherhood was longer, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay.
not much.
I guess let's keep it to professional project.
Okay, yeah. Longest term project I've ever done.
Yeah, so I want to discuss the importance of long-term projects, the struggles that come along the way, how to keep up, some things you might run into, So just advice on completing them and doing a good job.
I'd like you to start, and here's why. I had a really hard time with the long-termness of this project.
Yeah, long-term projects are very difficult.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone finds a long-term project easy.
Some people I think might. Some people I think might. You might find someone who says, give me 10 years on this. I'll do it.
Sure, but there's going to be struggles along the way.
There will be.
I think a lot of people overestimate their ability to do long-term projects. And then when faced with the reality, that's when the problems start happening.
Well, and there's so much life that can happen in 10 years.
Right.
Or it doesn't have to be 10. A long-term project could be 2 years as well. It's not just the perspective course.
I decided in college that 2 years was my good time. Mm-hmm. That a little less than that, I could go longer. 2.5 years, I start to want it to be over. But 2 years is not a bad one because I have students where it's like no more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or even some people no more than 2 hours.
That's not a long-term project, but by any definition.
If they've taken the years it takes to get prepared for it, then it's like, give me something I'm going to resolve in an afternoon. And they like that. And then they move on to the next thing. So yeah, I think everybody's different.
Yes, everyone's different. But I think long-term projects are important for everybody.
Tell us more.
Well, because I think that in order to do something that has tremendous impact, you have to spend a lot of time on it. It's very rare that you could do something in a few hours and it's going to be as impactful as something that you would do in 2 years. Like, I mean, can you think of any example that something in 2 hours is more meaningful?
I can, but it would go back to the thing. The jazz pianist who spent years perfecting their craft, and then in an afternoon they do something that when everybody hears it decades after, they're just astonished. That is not a long-term that is not a short-term project. That's a performance after a long-term project of getting your skill. But that's the first thing that occurs to me. So,
that's true. If you consider gaining skills as a long-term project, which it could be. Yeah, but you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
Long-term projects usually start with a very big goal. Because in order to decide, yes, I'm going to spend years on this thing, it has to be important enough for you to say, I'm going to dedicate years to it. And so if it's important, then it's probably worth doing. And I think it takes practice to do that, to be able to take something like that to completion. Because it takes a lot of dedication, focus, stamina, patience, discipline to say no. That's focus, I think. Yeah. It takes a lot of things, and any little thing can just mess it up.
That was a very good list.
I just came up with it.
Discipline, focus, stamina. What else was in there? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember what I said.
And one thing can throw it off.
Yeah, but my point is that I think it takes practice to be able to do long-term projects. It's kind of like it takes practice to do something really quickly as well. Mm-hmm. Like gesture quick sketch. It takes practice to get quick at it, but I think it also takes practice to be able to do something for a long time.
Right.
And yeah, both of those contrasts are really important in probably most fields. I'm sure there's examples where it's not, but...
How has it happened with you?
When I was in high school... No, earlier. When I was in elementary school and I was learning how to program... This was Visual Basics. My long-term projects back then were a few months. And this is elementary school, so like a few months for a kid is like an eternity.
Right.
And so I would set the goal of like, I'm going to finish this video game. And I had no idea how long it would take me, but I knew that it would be just until I'm done. And then I had a very big goal of doing a lot of different things to finish it, so naturally it just took a really long time. But yeah, I always had some kind of vision of like, yeah, when I finish this, it's gonna be so cool. It's gonna be so impressive. My mom's gonna love me.
Yeah.
My dad is gonna be like, "Good job, son."
Yeah, that's a good motive. I think. Yeah,
a good boy thing. Is that what you said?
A good motive.
Oh, good motive.
Yeah.
A good boy thing. I'm not a dog.
When a dog wants to please its master, or a kid wants to impress their parent, or anyone else, isn't that adorable? I mean, it's a good quality. We're trying to do good.
But yeah, it was. I always had these little things that I would cling on to, something that I'd get excited about, would just spend all my time on, and nothing else mattered.
So the programming thing was the first thing you remember that you could identify?
I think it was either that, or there was a summer when my cousin and I made the movie Home Alone together. I already talked about this before, but that took us like a month, I think. But then in like high school, I started doing my own little animations, and those would take anywhere between 4 months to like a year each. And so those I would have little calendars. I was older by then. I could plan things out and keep myself organized, on track, break the big task into smaller tasks. And I didn't know I was doing it. I think I was just copying something I probably saw somewhere. I'm like, oh, they made a calendar. And I just did that. I wasn't intentionally breaking it up into chunks. But now that I look back, I'm like, yeah, that's what I did. It's like an accident. But that is an important part of it, is identifying the final goal and then kind of work backwards and break it up into steps and have these little milestones for yourself that once you achieve it, it's like, yes, okay, I'm on the next one. Next thing. So those were little animations, and I made several of those throughout 4 years. And then I went on to starting a bunch of businesses. I already talked about these. Each of those lasted about a year. They all failed, which is maybe another thing we could touch on is, when do you stop? Do you have to complete all long-term projects? No. I had one project where it was just it was like a career in fine art. I guess I could consider that like setting up for a gallery show or something, a collection of oil paintings to give to my gallery that all had to do with Ukraine. And this is way before the war. That was about a year. And then Proco. Proco was like the last one. And now that's a 12-year.
And so Proco is the big long-term project where you've got multiple long-term projects and short-term projects. Which ones gave you the most trouble?
Oh, the ones that failed.
Tell us, I mean, are there any of them that when you look back on it, you say, if I'd only known beforehand?
Yeah. So all the ones that failed were all the different businesses that I tried to start before Proco. And it's because it had nothing to do with what I wanted to do. They were more in just like, I'm at the age now where I have to make money, right? This was like college level years. I was going to Watts at the time. I was studying, but I knew that I'm not going to make money as an artist for, I don't know, at least 5 more years. So what do I do now? I'm an adult. I got to make money. So I would start these for the sole purpose of making money, which is a horrible long-term goal on its own, is just to make money. And so, they failed because I don't think I had any interest in really understanding the business and the thing that the business does or is. That, it just failed because of that. So I think the passion, the desire, I'm trying to come up with another cool list, but probably not going to. Can you help me with this one? What's important
Yes, I'd use an analogy that when you're motivated by money, it's a carrot that you're chasing. When you're motivated by the love of it, you got a gyroscope in you that keeps you going, so that even if you're not getting it, you're just
when you hit a roadblock, that's always going to come up. If you don't have the love for it, that roadblock will be way too tall. You're just going to run into it, fall over, and that's it. That's the end of it. Yeah. But if you have so much love for it, or you know that you really want this no matter what, then they're pretty easy to tackle. At least they're pretty easy for you to motivate yourself to tackle them.
Probably the most archetypal analogy is raising a child. I mean, you would never put up with relationships with the trouble that a child brings unless you love the child. Yeah. And that's a long-term project. Yeah. And it's a popular one. So if either of your kids wanted to start businesses when they're 18, 19, you would tell them the stories of what you did, or do they already know them?
They don't know them. Kids. I was promoting nightclubs.
Did you really do one promoting nightclubs?
I thought I told you this story 5 times.
I don't remember the one about promoting nightclubs.
Yeah, it was called Club List Now, and we started a website. This is back in .com bubble days when everyone was starting a website to do something that was usually done without a website. Right? So we were starting a website to promote nightclub events. So like, oh, there's a DJ at, this club tonight or in 2 weeks. Let's sell tickets to it. And you sell them on Clubless Now.
I think you did
partner with
mention
promoters
it.
that would put them up. And
that's starting to sound familiar. How long did that last?
that was our longest one. That was probably a year and a half to 2 years before we fully killed it. But it was starting to die like after a year, and we just like trying to keep it afloat. And then
I've heard that investors, when they hear a person's story of what they've done, are less interested in you if you haven't started a project that took a long time that failed. If you have done a project that you put a lot into and it failed, then that means you've learned, but you've failed, but you've also gotten up and you're trying again. So that means you're going to come up stronger rather than the person who never has had to deal with it.
It's very rare for someone's first company to succeed. I mean, they sometimes happen, obviously.
Yeah.
Some very well-known billionaires, that is exactly the story, but that's not a typical story.
Yeah, and that's a hard truth.
Yeah. But yeah, with that specific example, I don't remember anything being terribly wrong with what we did. We sold, I don't know, like $500,000 worth of tickets. That wasn't profit.
Yeah, right.
We didn't make $500,000 of profit.
You generated.
That's how much we sold. Most of that went to the promoters and the clubs, and we, I don't know, made a few $1,000s off that. But so we were growing, but what happened was just after 2 years, we just lost interest. We're like, what are we doing?
Ooh.
Like, do we really want to keep going? And we really didn't. So I mean, when you have something like that you're starting that doesn't actually have an end date, you never do that if you're not interested in it, because you will run into that pretty quickly of like, I've lost that initial steam of like, I'm still okay doing this because there's money involved. But eventually even that will kind of wear off and you're just gonna be miserable.
All it becomes is a grind.
Yeah. The initial adrenaline of the little wins goes away eventually.
Yeah. Whereas if you are interested in it, you are on a journey to something you want to do.
Yeah.
You're a place you want to go. And if you grind it a little bit, or if you grind it a lot, you're not paying attention to the fact that it's just a grind.
Yeah. And you can add on little projects as you complete. Yeah. If you're interested in whatever that thing is. Like, I could keep going with Proco forever because I just love the world of art.
Yeah.
And I like to teach. So when I'm done with one thing, I'll be like, okay, what else do I want to do? There's going to be something in this circle that I'm going to be excited about.
Yeah. That's a great thing that you've got a project that is the big long-term project, that whatever smaller project in it that you are interested in, you can pour your energy into it for an afternoon or for a year.
And I know that there's a lot of people that really struggle with finishing things. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I say it's a skill that has to be developed. But it could become, the opposite could become a habit.
Which is what?
Just constantly killing a project. Mm-hmm. And never being able to complete a long-term. Everything is a short-term project. Yeah. And if one project stretches out to become kind of long, it doesn't get finished.
Have you ever heard of scope creep?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Does that relate to this?
Oh, that's real.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that is so real. Yeah, it happens in everything I do, I think.
How would you would you describe it?
You're excited about this thing, so you want to make it better and better and better and better and more. It's like, why not?
I'm doing it anyway.
Why wouldn't I make this better? What, have you experienced scope creep?
Yeah, I experienced scope creep with everything, and
like
with the perspective course.
Okay,
and it's for exactly what you said.
But then you ended up pulling back quite a bit, right?
We did it about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah,
because we had I was so impressed with what you'd done with the figure drawing course and the anatomy course. When I saw what you did with the figure drawing course, I thought nobody else is doing this.
Sorry,
boy, this is really exciting. There's always drama.
I just shook it for some reason.
And you shook it. That is an example of scope creep. Instead of just taking a shot,
why wouldn't I make this better?
I gotta add to it.
No, I thought there was something at the bottom. It's okay. My pants are blue.
Starbucks should offer different colored coffees so that if you spill them on your wardrobe,
they have every color.
It just always matches your wardrobe.
They literally have a drink called the pink drink.
So if you're wearing pink, you can spill it on your clothes.
Exactly.
That's a great idea.
You should start a company.
Oh, why not? Start our own
What would it be
franchises?
called? Color palette or something?
The stain rainbow.
The stain rainbow. The stainbow. You're smart.
Oh, yeah, because it has to be specifically about spilling it on yourself.
Stainbow coffee.
Are you going to intentionally make those crappy lids where every time you take a sip, it kind of leaks out of the edge?
Oh, there's a great idea. This is another thing, especially made lids.
That's so horrible.
What a creative think tank we are.
Yeah. Are you excited about this one?
Yeah. Let's devote 6 months to it. Where were we? Scope creep.
Yeah.
When I saw what you were doing with the figure drawing course, I was so impressed.
Okay.
When you did the anatomy course, nobody had ever done anything like it. I was so impressed. You modeled Skelly, you animated Skelly, you did dog tricks, you made fart jokes, you made art instruction like nobody had done it before. And I thought, who else is doing this? So I started to get motivated. Gosh, I think within 2 years, we could do a perspective course that has all this extra stuff in it that's going to make it so it's really entertaining. And you remember the first time I ever read you any portion of my script I think it was for episode 1, you said, Marshall, how are we ever going to produce that? Because it was too ambitious. It would have taken forever. Yeah. And it would have taken millions of dollars to do it.
Yes. If we'd had every episode like that, absolutely. So
I tried to narrow it down to a few things that were going to be budget. And then I started to realize we're getting in over our heads even with these, even with some of these animated bits. So I'm going to wait until there's plenty of money to try to do shorter things that will be that this 10 minutes is going to be something that will last 100 years. That's sort of my goal. But I'll get to that later. The perspective course was an example of scope creep in my life, and I had experienced it many times before.
Is it something that you're supposed to fight? Like, do you bring it up because it's a negative thing?
I think it's a great thing to like initially let run wild for the idea phase.
Right. Blue sky phase. Yeah. But I guess that's not scope creep though. Scope creep is where it slowly adds on at every stage of the project and you don't even realize it's happening. That's the negative side of it. But the antidote is just to always be aware of it. Always be looking for it. And at this point, I do always look for that because something that I forgot who told me, and I might maybe just read about it, but just the ability to say no to things. And that really stuck with me because at the time I was just saying yes to everything and I'd be way too overwhelmed. I'd be saying yes to everything that people brought to me and everything that my brain would just spit out. I'd be like, yep, that too. And then I was like, oh, you got to say no to say yes. It really stuck with me and it has never gone away. That's always on my mind. Whenever some new idea comes in, I'm like, is this a no? I want it to be a no because I don't want to do more work.
I've sensed that about you. I feel like that's been one advantage over the years.
Always. Like,
is it you say
do I say no to you like almost every time you say something?
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
But you occasionally say yes.
Yeah.
So that means that one thing that got through. Yeah. Mel Brooks used that as a deliberate strategy against Gene Wilder in Young Frankenstein, is that everything, he just said no automatically until Gene Wilder would
It should be automatic no. Mm-hmm. Most things should be an automatic no, and they should then deserve a yes.
So you've turned into a curmudgeon. I bring up those 6 thinking hats a lot, but they are related to this.
Okay.
The blue hat is to get the context of the whole thing. How does this project fit in with everything else, and will it contribute to other things? The yellow hat is the child of this is going to be great.
Okay.
The white hat are the facts. Some of those facts will dampen that yellow hat of optimism. The red hat is what did my gut tell me, and your gut has been developed enough to where you say, this is going to be dangerous, this is going to have scope creep. Or it says, no, I think we can do this, I've got a good feeling about it. The green hat is ideating. That's a breeding ground for scope creep. The black hat is warning. It's don't do this. This is too whatever it is. It's a negative. It's the opposite of the yellow hat. And when you're putting those different hats on, each one is useful for a particular stage of the project. The yellow one's very important early on so that it's not scope creep It's scope blast, and you blast, and then you see what's left after the optimistic blast.
Right. But we've been in black hat stage for 10 years now for this perspective course.
Yeah. Black hat stage can be very discouraging.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned to me, was it a few days ago? Long-term projects aren't always exciting. Well, they don't stay exciting. You could lose steam. And I think it's not that you could. I think you always do.
Yeah.
Life happens throughout those years, and anything can either you could be more excited about something. It doesn't have to be a negative thing in your life. It could be just like something else comes up and you're super excited about that other something. But then it's like, well, you maybe don't have a choice. You have to keep working on this long-term project because you've committed and you have other resources and things are happening. You can't just stop. Do you want to talk about how you've gone through that?
You mean how that relates to
perspective?
The perspective course? No, I don't really.
Really?
No, I
you
will.
Decided not
I will, but I want to talk about the perspective course. But you're what you're thinking about, what you're mentioning here, about how you will lose steam.
Always.
Let me go on a 1 to 2 minute aside on this. Do you know who Daniel Pink is?
No.
He's worth knowing about. He's written a number of books including on motivation. He's the one who he did a TED Talk that made him famous about how Wikipedia is this incredible thing that nobody gets paid to write the entries. Everybody's motivated to do this. He wrote a book called Drive that I read this last year. It's at least 14 years old, maybe 15 years old. And it's about what motivates people. It was an interesting book. He also wrote a book later called When, W-H-E-N. It relates to this. He talks about beginnings and middles and endings and how they have distinct characteristics.
Okay.
And the thing about middle, my son doesn't have time to read, but I did tell him when you are in middle age and feel like midlife is crisis, read this portion of the book because middles have a characteristic. They sag. You lose sight of where the end. They become discouraging. Mm-hmm. And here's what the research that he elaborates on has shown, that if you are aware that I am in the middle and that it is sagging, you can do certain things about it. The two that I remember are that if you are way behind, look at what you've done. That way you can be encouraged that I can get things done. If you are beyond the halfway point, look at what you have left. That felt like practical advice. But I thought the book was very good. I'm not necessarily recommending it, but it does get you thinking about how if our lives are timelines, and any project is a timeline. His point partly was that the way a lifetime is divided up, there is an analogy to any project, even an afternoon. Oh gosh, there's a part in there about disasters that happen in the afternoon in hospitals and that kind of thing. Failures tend to happen in the afternoon, and there's research to show it. Yeah. And there's ways to cover for it. There's ways in the medical industry, they've got names for it where they cover for having fewer mistakes happening in the afternoon because we're aware of it.
Is it because of lunch or is it because of the middle of a shift? Because there's nighttime shifts that their middle is at night.
Yeah.
And there's shifts where the middle is in the evening.
I don't know. But the one takeaway I got from it is that if you're doing a short-term or a long-term project, be aware that the beginning and the end tend to be the more exciting times. Somewhere in the middle, you will lose steam.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, you got that initial rush, that excitement. And at the end, you're so close, you're excited to finally get it there. You're like, you could see it.
That's why before the finish line, a surge of energy happens. Yeah. Now, what was the question that I didn't answer? It seemed if I was evading or...
I was saying that every project has struggles, that even if you start a project that you're excited about and you have passion and love for it, you're still going to go through times where you want to give up and where you just don't want to work on it anymore. I was wondering if you have advice for people going through that.
I don't know that I have advice. I've had experience, but I don't know that it's advice because most advice can fall apart. I may have advice, but I'll see if I can get to it. I'll see if I can find it.
Mm-hmm.
The Coen brothers have retired from making films together since whatever it's been, 2018, because that last one was so hard on them. And they said somewhere in an interview that if they had known how hard being filmmakers was going to be, they might not have done it, which means that we would not have their films. And I think it's that way with almost any big project, that if you know how hard it's going to be, you wouldn't do it. But I think I can do it. That's a good quality, because at least it starts something that's fun, and the work will come later. The beginning of a relationship is usually fun. Have you ever heard the statement that
puppy love?
A relationship is the price you pay for the excitement of anticipating it?
Oh, God.
Isn't it often the case, though? I mean, the reality is not going to be as shiny as what it looked like at first. So, awareness of it, but I want to do it anyway.
Yeah, well, which makes sense. If you could feel all the pain you're going to go through before you start it, you're never going to start it. Right? Like,
encouraging notes.
It's interesting. I was just talking to, we were talking to my brother's wife, stepsister. Or no, sister-in-law.
Yeah,
there it is. That's the one.
Your brother's wife is your sister-in-law.
Yeah. I finally got to that one.
Yeah.
Where they just had twins. So that's super, that's really difficult.
Life has changed. Yeah.
It's like 6 months ago. In the first several months, it's like, I am never having a kid again. But then I think she said she's starting to feel like, wait, she's forgetting how hard it was. Right? And so she's like, do I want another one? Right? And so it's like we're made to forget how difficult it is to have a child, so that we could have more. Like literally, like this is for reproduction. This is, or for survival of the species. This is a thing that's good. Yeah. Is to forget the pain in order to do meaningful things again. Isn't that cool?
It's a chemical that your body invents so that you'll keep doing this. Okay. Well, okay, let me ask you this. What are the red flags, so to speak, of a project that you could start to work on and you say, no, I'm going to say no to that? What are are there any things you can put words on?
Automatic no. I don't.
You say no to project anyway.
No, it's an automatic no in my head, and then it needs to become a yes.
Okay.
It's not the opposite. I think the opposite is dangerous. If you have to figure out a no, otherwise it's a yes, that's how you just say yes to too many things. If there's no reason to say yes, and there's no reason to say no, you say no. Because there's no reason to say yes. Because if you say yes just because you don't really know, then next week you're going to have a better opportunity that might come along, but now you don't have time. And that thing that is really exciting, that's an obvious yes, is now going to suffer because you're doing this other thing as well. And it's not like one thing and another thing. It's like these 57 things that you've said yes to all kind of combine, and you don't even realize how much it's affecting all this other stuff. We all have this kind of fatigue of just little things. I'm not just saying like yes to a big project or no to a big project. It's everything.
I want to be more like you.
I don't get the sense that you say yes to everything.
I have said yes to so many things, and it's my nature to do so, but I am realizing that every yes is a hidden no.
Yes, exactly.
To things that I care most about.
You say that as if you're just now realizing that.
I've realized it for years, but there's a difference between realizing and acting on it.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so it's an automatic no. You don't need to say,
it starts as a no.
It starts as a no.
It's not an automatic no where I give the no as the answer. In my mind, it starts as a no and it has to become a yes.
Okay.
I always am hesitant. Someone's coming up with an idea and I'm like, what is it now? Okay. How are you going to waste my time? No, I don't.
I'll be careful. Yeah, I have.
No, that's a bad attitude too.
But the image that I've had of you is that you throw something out and he shoots it. You say, look at this marvelous bird, and got another one.
No.
But that is an image that's just kind of cropped up in me, is that because I've watched you deal with your staff too.
How?
Here's an idea. Here's an idea. Here's an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then there's that amazing one that comes because of all those no's.
Let's not kill that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? Are we?
Yeah.
Is that bad?
No, it's something I'm learning from, but I'm going to change the analogy from birds.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be shooting birds.
Yeah. I'm not a murderer.
Find a better analogy. Put it in the comments.
So I have an answer or I have maybe a bad idea.
Okay, well, let's start with a bad idea.
Well, I don't know if I have a good idea. I just have one idea.
Good, let's hear it.
And it might be bad. This might be bad advice, but I've found for myself, and this is related to not giving up when a project gets less exciting or you just don't want to do it anymore or whatever. If it's too painful to quit, you're less likely to quit. So if you fully commit to the point where it's very difficult to undo, that becomes really painful to undo. And so it's really hard to quit.
Do you have an example from your experience?
Well, I mean, Proco. Can you imagine what it would take for me to just stop? I can't just stop showing up.
Yeah.
So if I have a bad day or a bad week, a bad month or whatever, it's still never crossed my mind. You know what? Let's just stop this. Because it would just be way too difficult. The same with kids.
That's right.
That's probably the best example. It's it's not only difficult, it's impossible. Well, some people somehow still manage to quit that one.
It's an extreme, that's an extreme action to abandon your kid.
Yeah, the pain that it would cause to not do it is greater than the pain that you have to go through to finish it.
Yes.
And so I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think it's great. I want to respond to it.
Okay.
If you like or don't like Ken Burns documentaries, his first lesson in that Ken Burns masterclass, he talks about this at length. One of the things he said, he talked about how it took him 5 years to do his first 1 hour documentary. He got nominated for an Academy Award for it. But he said every single day he had debilitating anxiety. He thought he was going to have a nervous breakdown. He said that another thing was fear of failure can be a huge motivator. But I've watched it about 5 times, just that lesson. I've shown it to students so that they can get an idea of how much this guy suffered to do he was in his 20s. He was a kid. He was taking on this huge thing. But the first thing you should do is watch his first documentary that he did in the early 1980s called The Brooklyn Bridge. Ken Burns, The Brooklyn Bridge. It's only 1 hour. I've seen it 8 times in the last 2 years. I only saw it 2 years ago. I showed it to students at the beginning of the genre class, because the genre class, you choose your territory. You choose your genre or your medium, and now you're going to write your Wikipedia entry of how I'm going to do great in this genre or this medium. And the point of showing the Brooklyn Bridge at the beginning of the semester, the first thing we watch, is to show that whatever you take on, it's not as big a deal as building the Brooklyn Bridge.
Okay.
And I never knew or cared about the Brooklyn Bridge, but I was interested in Ken Burns' first documentary. It is a great 1 hour. It's riveting, and it can be very inspiring. So that's a huge thing for the long-term project. It took forever to get that thing built, and nobody done anything like it. And there were so many troubles, and it's told as a story.
Yeah. So you said fear of failure in there. Yeah, I think I do have a fear of failure. Does everybody? Everyone's got a fear of failure.
A person without it would be
the public failure.
Yeah.
Right. If you fail but nobody knows, it's not as painful, right? And so, if you have a big project that you really want to finish, telling everyone about it, that's a common one that I hear all the time.
Yeah.
Just make it so publicly known that you're doing this, you're going to finish it, and then you have all your friends that'll kind of put pressure on you to finish it. You're like, oh, you're not doing that anymore? Ooh, shame.
That's a painful motivation, right?
Yeah.
Some people keep it a secret.
Right. That right there is a sign that you're not fully committed.
But there is research to show that when you talk about what you're going to do, especially in glowing terms, that your body produces the dopamine or whatever it produces to give you the satisfaction of having done the work without doing the work. So it becomes counterproductive.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, one person I know who has accomplished stuff, former student, she told me that she has learned not to tell people about her projects. That way there's no humiliation. It doesn't mean that, it may take away the pain.
Does she finish projects?
Yeah, she finishes projects.
Okay. And she's got something else then. There's another driver there.
I have another student who's really accomplished, very accomplished already, and young. Mm-hmm. And she has said that she does not talk about any of her projects. That's just her personal maxim, is that it's not for other people. It's for me and the person that I'm working with. So, yeah.
Some people don't need the public shame to
right. It's not fear of punishment. Yeah. It's desire for reward.
I could see that, though, what you said, the dopamine rush of announcing. Mm-hmm. And then you're just like, all right, I'm done. Yeah, we launched it. We launched the pre-sale. We're done, right? Wait, what? Are you thinking of
You're touching a nerve.
Is this what's happening in your mind right now?
No, it's not.
Did you get that rush of pre-sale money coming in your wallet?
No, that is not what's happening right now.
Okay, good.
No, what's happening right now is awareness that the starting gun has fired.
Okay, so great. So you just proved that that's wrong. That initial rush of announcing that the dopamine didn't happen to you.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening
it is
a little bit, but it's
not affecting you. And then
it's a whole mix of feelings. Yeah.
I see you as somebody who really cares about people disliking you, and if you do not want to disappoint, that's what I'm saying. And this is not a bad thing. I'm saying you don't want to disappoint people. Yeah. You care about people having negative thoughts, or you having a bad impact on someone that hurts you.
Yeah. My older brother told me, you wear yourself out because you put so much energy into not being thought of as an asshole.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he told me that just about three or 4 years ago.
Oh, this was not like a childhood thing.
No. He told me that recently because he's observed how it goes. Mm-hmm. But as I've mentioned on this podcast before.
As soon as I said that, you were like, I saw.
That you don't want to be disliked by people. But there is something else, though. There can be kind of a rush of being disliked by people who you wish would dislike you because you don't like them. Oh, yeah.
Wow, I don't have that.
When there's someone who doesn't like you and you observe them and you say, you don't deserve to like me, then that's
wow, that's an interesting one. Yeah. I haven't experienced that.
It's that you learn to shut them out. You say, where is the source that you do that very well with comments.
But it's not, I don't get that feeling of, I want you to dislike me.
No,
it's more just God.
It's not that I want.
I can't focus on this right now.
It's not that you want it. It's that you can be amused by a person who they're so intent on hurting you, and you haven't done them harm. You might have even tried to do them good. Then you can sit back and watch them as a character. They are a type of person, and they are interesting. They're sociologically interesting.
Those people,
trolls are that way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They're just there to have fun.
See if I can make them hurt as much as I hurt. Yeah.
Yes, that's usually it. Yeah.
There was a wonderful animation that I have not been able to find. It was done with 3D, and it might not have been entirely animated. I only saw it once. It might have been live action and animation put together, but it was a person who was making their living as a troll.
When they call you a dumbass, you know you've got them. They called me a dumbass.
That is racist.
You're correct.
It is. There's some kind of human nerd who is telling people to ignore me. I mean, he's getting my accounts suspended left and right. This will not stand. I saw that he logged into the cafe computer after hours. I think he lives here. You don't look like your online photo.
Marshall, are you ready for all of the negative comments that are going to come in every lesson you publish?
I will turn to you as the stern...
Oh, boy.
I'll turn to you as the stern dad who will say, you don't pay attention to those, and you don't even read them.
Well,
do you understand?
You can pay attention to some of them, because some of them are legit. They're good.
I'll let you tell me about them. I'll ignore them until you tell me about them.
Yeah, because boy, do a lot of students have an opinion of how you, Marshall, need to teach.
Is it that I talk too much?
What?
Is that their issue, that I talk too much?
No, this hasn't happened.
Oh, it's not a specific...
I'm saying, are you ready?
Oh, am I ready for
what's about to...
Well, you will be the stern dad who says, don't listen to them. Charlie will be the nurturing mom who says, Marshall, it's not that bad.
What's up, Mama?
Yeah, I've got a couple grown-ups.
We'll get through this together, Marshall.
Yes.
Yeah, Marshall, we'll get through it.
But yeah.
But I know Your fear of disappointing people.
Yeah. Well,
it's going to be so painful for you. So please, people who are signed up for the course, please know this about Marshall. Be kind.
No, you don't need to be kind, because here's another thing. I have had many students in the colleges.
Oh gosh, that's in real life. Well, that could actually patent.
That's good word.
Right?
Yeah.
It could patent it, because when they're hidden behind the internet, they just go all out.
Yeah, they do. They
have no filter.
Yeah.
And I don't mean they as in everyone. It's they, those very few people.
But the ones who are anonymous, in particular, their thoughts do not mean much, although I guess you can learn from them. But what Stan told me when he was telling me about how the basics course was going, and he said, there are students who are, no matter what you do, they're unhappy with it, and they're going to be the same way about your course, and you will take every opinion with equal weight.
Yeah. He said that.
Yeah, and that got a big, long laugh out of me. I had to tell it to my family. I had to tell it to my brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Not every opinion has to be weighted.
No, not every opinion has equal weight.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's get back to the long-term project. And the art of patience was a part of this.
Yeah, I don't know what I have to say about the art of patience, though. Other than that, it's like a developed muscle, just like everything else, maybe.
And you've developed it.
Well, I've gotten better, sure, but I wouldn't say that I'm like great at it. I have more stamina than probably most people I know, as far as being able to just work and focus. Thus the back problems. But I don't know if patience that's not the same thing as patience, right? Because what are we talking about? Patience with other people, or patience with challenges?
With the project.
Okay, in that case, yeah, I have a lot of patience with things going wrong.
Like technical things that go wrong. It doesn't bend you out of shape.
Not really, no.
Oh man, I want that.
Yeah.
I remember about 9 years ago when you came up to Laguna Beach to see a sculptor who you eventually said no to. You were working on Proco 2.0, and it had been you were already into it a year or more, right? You had your programmers and your people who were
probably. We worked on it for 5 years before we launched it, so probably, yeah.
And I remember thinking about you, Stan is okay with incremental atomic habits, tiny things that keep moving forward until they become what they become. That guy who wrote Atomic Habits talks about ice cubes. You can be in a room with an ice cube that's 20 degrees, say, I'll raise it 5 degrees, nothing happens. I'll raise it 6 degrees, nothing happens. But if you just keep raising it, eventually it has the thing where everybody looks at it as an overnight success, but it took all of that incremental, but you seem like you've got that pretty ingested into you.
Incremental things.
That you're okay with the fact this will happen if we just keep doing these things.
Yeah, and that's why I think saying no to most things and then saying yes to that one obvious yes makes all of that so much easier, because it's a lot easier to believe that those little things are going to end up adding up to something really meaningful.
Yeah.
Because if you just say yes to something that you're like, yeah, maybe, then all those little things just feel like a waste. And you're just like, wait, why are we doing this again?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really hard to believe in the project unless it's the big one yes.
Is infrastructure a part of this?
What do you mean?
You know how so many times when you start a project, you can spend a year or 2 or 3 just trying to develop your infrastructure. For example, it took me a year and a half to get the 4K camera set up. Well, it took me a year and a half, and then had to move out of that house and had to go through the whole thing again, mount it on the ceiling, mount it on the bookshelf. How do you mount it? How do you make all the things work? Now the technology's changed. That's infrastructure. You can't really start doing the course until you've got your team, you've got your equipment.
No, you can.
Go ahead.
You don't have to start with everything figured out.
But you do have to have working equipment. You do have to have some people.
It has to be good enough, but it doesn't have to be like 4K.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. I mean, it was better in our case because you were already going into a system that was in place.
Right.
Like you were going into the Proco family of courses and that had a standard. But we sent you the 4K camera.
That's right. I ran into so many technical troubles, but let's not talk about that.
Okay.
Thing is, here's the analogy that I think his name's James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. Bamboo takes years to develop a root system. That's infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And then in a matter of weeks, it shoots sky high. So it was all of that preparation that makes it so that it can do this thing that emerges. Okay. Go ahead.
But this could lead to never launching something. And there's actually two bad extremes in this case.
Go ahead.
There's the tech world where they launch broken products all the time. That's the other extreme where it's like way too early. And then there's the opposite issue of like you never end up launching anything because you just want perfect everything. And right in the middle there is the right balance where you're like, okay, this is good enough to start and test this thing. And then you increment. If you can do incremental stuff. Like technology back in the day, software, they launched and they couldn't fix bugs. As soon as you put that box with a CD on it, that's the thing people installed, and you couldn't do like an internet upgrade or anything, right? So it depends on what you're working on. But a lot of things nowadays, you can incrementally improve on it.
Yeah.
And so your first launch has to be good enough. So that's kind of my thing. Is
but not so good that it never came out.
Exactly.
That's where the scope creep becomes a problem.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Mm-hmm. So you identify what is absolutely necessary for this to be good enough. And then that's it. That's good. Mm-hmm. For example, with launching Proco, I launched the first videos on YouTube before I knew exactly how I was going to make money. So if I was trying to figure out like the perfect course to make, and I tried to finish the course and then the sales page and all of that, then it would have taken me another 2 years before I would have launched. And then I wouldn't have had those few years to develop the audience in order to sell the product. So I started by just like trying out a video. Let's publish this one video and see what happens. And if that didn't go anywhere, maybe I would have tried to improve it. And then maybe I would have done several until I would have said, okay, this actually is not working. But I launched the first one and a lot of things worked. Some things I was like, okay, let's improve it. And I would constantly improve, and then figure out, okay, now I need to make money. Let's work on the next problem. And then slowly you grow something nice. But yeah, if you just try to make everything perfect, that's... What was the question?
Well, you're saying what the Coen brothers said, why they became filmmakers. They just made films when they were young, and then they made another one, and then they could make it better. So they're already in. You're not saying, I'm traveling to the other side of the continent.
Yeah.
You're traveling in that direction.
Yeah.
And if there are meanders, you're still going in that direction, and it's not taking on the whole journey. It's one jaunt at a time, one leg at a time.
Yeah.
1 foot.
But there are sometimes big projects where you get there is no milestone halfway or 10% of the way. It's like it doesn't exist until it's completely done. Yeah. And then you launch it and then that's it. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like a major movie. It took like 10 years.
Yeah, Avatar.
Right? They finished it. That's it.
But then there's Linklater. You know, Richard Linklater, is that how you pronounce his name? Mm-hmm. He did that. Did you see the movie Boyhood?
I haven't seen it, but I'm familiar with it.
I really liked Boyhood. And that took him, he has his daughter in there, and she actually, the kids actually age as they shot it over a period of years.
Yeah.
And he's working on another one that he said he's going to finish when he's in his 80s. So yeah, you've got a real person. This is a long-term project. It's going to be 12 years to make this film, and I'm going to have the actual actor age in front of the camera. I do admire something about that. I don't know that I'd want to do it, but he knows what he's getting himself into.
Yeah, talk about a commitment to a project.
Yeah.
What was it? There was the other one, though. It was back in the day. When they used Maya to make the whole thing, and it took them like 10 years. Is it Final Fantasy?
The Spirits Within?
Yeah. Hold on. Final Fantasy. I think that's the one I'm thinking of. And it took like 10 years, and it was...
Yeah, that was Maya. It. Final Fantasy. I remember all the talk about that.
Yeah, it finally came out, and they're like...
It was Final Fantasy.
So, I mean, all that was just for the example of like, this is something that took forever, and they didn't have those little wins of testing something. They just had to see it through, and then it came out, and it was all right.
Yeah. We've had that happen to a degree with the perspective course. Is that it's all, except everybody, people were expecting it, but there was no little bit at a time that we're releasing.
Yeah.
And so it did rely on getting one little part done that you and Charlie say good. Mm-hmm. And so that just kept happening, and those helped. But they were like having like a raisin on a journey, a thimble full of something to drink. There were little bits, but it was hard because it all had to be done without the
little releases. Because the way I've done all of my courses is that I make the lessons as I release them.
Right.
And so every release is a much bigger motivator to keep going than, just sending it to Charlie and being, he's like, cool, good job. Right?
Yeah.
So that's actually an interesting point. Is like, if you could do a project where you could have a bunch, like slowly release things, that's probably way easier.
Next time.
Well, there are very big risks. If you're selling something where you sell the full thing but you're releasing one at a time, you have no choice. You have to. This is another thing where it's too painful to quit.
Yeah.
It's like you have no choice. Customers bought this. You have to finish it.
Can't you just switch it to where each small thing is a small purchase? It's like a band coming out with a song.
Yeah, but that's too much friction for people to buy too many things.
If it's a $5 thing or an $8 thing.
No, just the habit. Okay, I mean, as far as just a business idea, I'm gonna say no. No. Right. But the reason is because this is just across the board. I don't know what our stats are, but in online education, only about 3% of people that buy a course finish the course.
Is that right?
So imagine how much less sales you'll have, how much less money you'll make if only 3% of the people that start actually buy all of them.
Well, what if, I'm going to go back to the analogy of songs. A band comes out with a song and it sells. They come out with another song maybe a year later and it sells. They come out with a song a month later, it sells.
Okay.
And they do a number of these, and then they get put into the collection of the whole thing that costs less than the individual ones would be. But the idea is we're breaking a potentially large project into small units that are good enough to be small units, but they will accumulate into a larger unit. They can't be too small. Unit.
It depends on the product too. With music, it's different because if this is something that actually releases stress for them, it's entertaining. It's a positive experience every time. Learning and going through a course it's a project on its own, and it can be very challenging for people. It takes a lot of energy to go all the way to go through it. It's not like listening to a song, but also doing it that way. I think even less people would complete the course by purchasing the whole thing. That in itself is a motivator for the students to complete the whole thing. And so if you allow them to only buy the first one, even more people will be like, I don't want to do the second one. I didn't buy it. I don't want to buy it.
Yeah, and that's where the priority is sales.
Well, both. I think both of them actually, it's a positive for both sides. It's a driver for the student to finish it because they bought the whole thing. And it's better for the business.
Yeah.
I don't see a downside for anybody in that.
Yeah.
With that model.
I don't see a downside for doing something that is 10 minutes that's extremely dense, extremely valuable, selling it for cheap, and then maybe I'll do another one next month or next year.
Yeah, that's fine. But if they have to go on and buy every time, like they have to put their credit card in every time, that's a lot of friction. If the thing that does work is like a monthly subscription.
Yeah.
Where they don't have to think about it. There is no friction. The card just gets charged automatically. And it's actually friction for them to cancel.
Yeah, I don't like doing that.
Well, you don't have to make it hard for them to cancel.
No, but Adobe just went through.
Oh, well, there's a $180 fee to cancel.
You're talking about Adobe,
nonsense.
Right?
What?
Adobe just
sure.
antitrust law.
That's nonsense.
Yeah. Okay, then I do have some advice. And it is advice that helped me through this course. It was that I have a very inexpensive lecture from 2014, the year after we started this, on using a whiteboard to design your career. And it's that if you have your long-term picture on a vertical surface in your environment, say, here is where I'm going. It might be in the center. It might be at the right, so that you're seeing it as a journey or a map or a petri dish, whatever. I had a whiteboard that had the perspective course on it that I would see regularly. And because I saw it, as discouraged as I was in the journey, I always knew this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And as discouraging as it was, there was never a time when I thought of giving it up. There was times when I wished I could die.
Holy shit.
Oh, wow.
What?
There was never a time when I thought it's
You thought you could die?
There were times where it's like, this thing is, when is this ever going to get done? When we did 3 years of Draftsmen, I never worked for 15 minutes on the perspective course.
What do you mean?
For 3 years that we recorded Draftsmen, I did not work on the perspective course.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
That was part of why we stopped, is that I've got to get back to work on this.
Yeah, I thought because it would give you more time. I didn't know that it was 0 time.
No, well, it was.
No,
it
we
was
were working on it.
It was very slow.
It was
Okay.
hardly anything.
Jesus, okay.
So yes, that was part of why. That was one reason that we're saying the same things over and over again. The other thing is Marshall's got other work to do.
Yeah.
And it's not Draftsmen, but Draftsmen.
This is news to me.
I didn't know that it was news to you. I
is
thought we
news
had
to
to
me.
talk about this before we decided to say that the third season was the final one.
Well, yeah, I thought it was just because, we both need to. I need to do the basics course. You need to do it, but it wasn't that there was 0 progress.
It wasn't zero.
Okay.
But it
But you
was.
just said you didn't even work 15 minutes on it. That's pretty much 0.
I am exaggerating.
Okay, all
but when
right.
I look
That's a
back at
pretty
what I
extreme
got done,
exaggeration.
I don't see anything that I can say, you got this done, you got this done. I see that there's this whole long line of 70-some episodes that have not been worked on.
Okay. So that's a case where a no maybe would have been good, but maybe not. This is an interesting example because Draftsman wasn't bad. It wasn't a thing you said yes to that was like detrimental. I mean, it was to that project, but not in overall to your life.
No, not at all.
Or to the life of people who you're affecting.
Stan, I've told you this before, and I've even said it on here.
What?
I have, for the last 2 years, been teaching some of the best students I have ever taught in 40-plus years of teaching. And a number of them, a good portion of them, have come from this podcast. So yeah, it is not a regret.
You guys are awesome.
You
and you, all of you.
Yeah, they come in knowing what to expect, and so you keep the ones away that don't want that guy. Hey, here, do you know who Cal Newport is?
Sounds familiar.
He wrote a book that I read a little over a month ago called Slow Productivity.
Oh, God.
The subtitle was something like the science or secret of accomplishment without burnout. Some
slow productivity.
subtitle.
This sounds like what you already do.
No, I mean, unfortunately, it was a library book. I had to read it rapidly, but I did.
Oh God, the irony.
I did pull away what, you know how a lot of authors are doing this, break it into 3 little maxims. The first maxim is do fewer things. The second is
yes, I know.
Work at a natural pace. The third is obsess over quality. Oh,
I don't like the word obsess.
You don't like the word obsess. What would you
obsess.
substitute?
I say value quality.
Value quality. Okay. We have been noticing in that genre class, we have been noticing how many people who are great achievers have an obsessive quality. It's a negative quality, but it
can be. An obsession can be an addiction.
I know.
Which can be very bad.
I know. Obsession compulsion is a disorder.
Yeah. So
let's change
very
the word.
Good. An obsession of quality can be very good, but it is extremely risky.
Yeah.
I think more times than not, it is bad.
So let's say mildly obsess over. Let's say
whatever.
Do fewer things. Work at a natural pace. Value quality. I'll accept that.
Okay.
I hope.
Great. or mildly obsessed. I'll also accept your version.
Okay, thank you.
See, there's one thing that I forgot to mention. This was like the only thing I've written down.
Yeah, boy, that was an obsession.
I have written down, utilize the unexpected bursts of energy and inspiration. Sometimes you'll just like throughout your day get this rush of ideas that is associated with the thing you're working on. Those are extremely useful. And if you can prevent a distraction, or if you have to be somewhere in 10 minutes and you're like, oh God, I have this precious moment right now. If you can, try to extend it. Try to say no to whatever the thing is, unless it's like your kids or something. But because those are really valuable, and those like that 30 minutes can be more valuable than a full day of work where you're just kind of like, ugh. So just notice when it's happening and use it.
That's a strike when the iron's hot thing.
Yeah.
Ray Bradbury made an issue of that in his book, Zen and the Art of Writing, that you can sometimes in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, maybe an hour or two, have more success than if you were to spend weeks on it where you're trying to dredge it up slowly. Yeah.
A lot of my scripts happen that way, where I'll be like, I gotta write a script.
Yeah.
And then I'm like thinking, I gotta write a script. Go look over my notes. I'm like, but no progress is made over like several days. And then just like in 45 minutes, I like complete the framework of the whole thing.
Yeah. Me too. I have that happen too. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And it's also fun.
Right. There's nothing else that it can distract me at that moment. I'm just like in it. I'm in the zone, and it just explodes out.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to notice when that's happening and just keep going with it. So that I think is really important. And then also save the most energetic parts of your day to focus on the project.
Mm-hmm.
Brainstorming or planning, like when you're most aware, use that time on that thing that's most important to you.
When is that for you?
In the morning.
Yeah, that's part of Daniel Pink's thing about when. Mm-hmm. Morning is best for most people. Mm-hmm. And when I was reading, I was feeling so alienated. And then he shifted gears in that chapter and pointed out, for some people, it's a whole different set of rules that they thrive at night.
My day, I'm just making so many decisions that my brain just gets fried. I can't do anything at night.
You zone out after a while.
I just fall asleep. I sleep very well. Yeah, that's another thing. If you work hard and like use your brain throughout the day, it's way easier to turn it off, I think. But not necessarily. Not if you're stressed out.
Yeah, stress can change that. This might fit in there somewhere. One of the biggest mistakes students of storycraft make is they start with a screenplay. There are countless stories about trying to do a full-on screenplay, recognizing how hard it is, and never finishing. I have learned to recommend start with a 1 to 2 minute story. A little animation, a little live action, then graduate to a 3 minute or 6 to 7 minutes. There's classic animation shorts were 6 to 8 minutes. That way you're working on a story that you can bring to finish and feel encouraged. Otherwise, it's a matter of seeing, here's my big project, and then this one I'm going to pretend like it's the only thing, but you've got the context of where it fits in on the timeline or as the puzzle piece. But breaking it into smaller parts is something we've talked about before. Mm-hmm. But even just starting with smaller projects to, what was it you use the term, you practice patience.
Yeah.
Is that how you described it? You said it's something you get good at.
I developed it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't ever think of like, patience, that's the thing I got. Like, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, well, I admire you for it.
Okay. Cool, thanks.
Here's another factor. Collaboration being an important part of keeping motion going. Stephen Sondheim was interviewed by Adam Guttell, both of them writers of musicals. Adam Guttell, the young one, Stephen Sondheim, the old one. Adam asks him, what do you do when you're working on it and it's just, you're coming up against a brick wall. I can't remember the analogy you used. You're just the blank page, nothing's happening. Stephen Sondheim said, nah, it doesn't happen. I just pick up the phone. Because he was always working with a collaborator. And in that phone call, you're going to talk about what's going on. They're going to say, well, what about, and then you start responding to that and you've got it going. Mm-hmm. So collaboration can make a big difference. It's, if you think about it, when people stand in line and they're waiting for a long time, they shift the energy from one leg to another and back. And that can happen in a good collaboration where there is trust between the two sides. You work on this and then give it back to me. I'll work on that and give it back to you. That's a big deal. What do you think about that?
I think I work best just locked up in a room.
Mm-hmm.
But there is also a lot of value in just brainstorming with other people for some things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, most of the work that I do, I just have to like be alone.
I think it makes a difference when the collaboration happens too. Collaboration right at the beginning, we got this idea together.
Okay.
And then it's like, we got this baby together.
Yeah.
And one's going to stay up all night and one's going to stay up all day to take care of it. So that you go off and do your thing alone. And then sometimes it's like the way we've been working it with the perspective course, it has not been a collaboration until the editing stage typically, where Charlie and Hannah look at it and then it starts to take shape from two minds. And then there's the thing where, like with the Coen brothers, it is collaboration from beginning all the way to the end. They even edit their own films under a false name. So they're completely involved as a yin-yang connection of collaborators.
I don't think I'm the guy to go to for collaboration. No. I do mostly delegation rather than collaboration, where I'll know that, like, okay, these parts of the project I don't want to spend my efforts on, so I'll hand it off to someone else. But that's not collaboration.
I found that out about you years ago because I wanted to talk with you about everything I was doing, bounce it back and forth.
Yeah, so I don't.
It wasn't going to happen.
So I think it depends on the person.
It does. Frank Frazetta was not a collaborator. Charlie Schulz was not a collaborator. Some people are just not collaborators, and they do great work because it's better that's just put it in their hands. They'll take care of it.
Yeah.
That's good. Delegation versus collaboration.
Yeah,
You do that. Yeah.
There's a difference. Like I have a team of people that I work with.
Right.
And we do collaborate on things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that when I think about all the big projects that I'm doing, most of my effort is done on my own and then passed on, and someone does a huge part of the project, but not with me there with them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like many hands make short work. And if you've got other people doing the work on the long-term journey, on the big project, they do that work, I do this work, and it gets done.
Yeah. I'm an introvert. If I have to work with people on something, my energy level drops very quickly. But if I'm alone working on a project, I could sit there for 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of those 12 hours, I'm not tired. Mm-hmm. Like my body is tired, but I'm not, you have to like pull me out of the chair.
Yeah. Because you're in the zone, the good zone of cruising along on what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of writers have that energy. A lot of painters have that energy.
Oh, the question, and I think a lot of people would have the question of how do you prevent burnout? What was that? Is that a stupid question?
Again.
Or you feel it?
There is a chapter in Dr. Eddie O'Connor's Psychology of Performance on burnout.
Okay.
It is a scary chapter. Because it is a medically recognized phenomenon, and there are preliminary warnings for it.
Yeah.
And he talked in there about one of the most important things is kind of what we were just mentioning, is relief, regular relief, not making it so that it all explodes in a breakdown.
By relief, do you mean rest? Is that the same thing, or is it?
Think about it. You cannot say, I sleep so many hours a week, and I'm awake so many hours a week. I think what I'll do is I'll just stay awake straight through that many hours and then sleep it. And it doesn't work that way because it's the vacillation back and forth that makes it work. So burning out, one of the things that I remember vaguely is that like a pressure release valve, little at a time helps.
Yeah. You can't just have one thing that you do in your life where it's like, oh, I only said yes to that one thing, like Stan said. Like, no, that's not what that means. You say yes to that thing in that most best part of your day, but then you do need to step away and do other things, escape that, because when you come back, your mind will bring new things to it with a whole new energy again. You'll be excited to come back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, like outdoor, indoor time.
Yeah.
Like standing, sitting time. Like people time and alone time. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
not just one
Lots
thing.
of a balance of things. And because I think that's where the burnout comes from, is where you stay in one thing for way too long to the point where you can no longer do that one thing.
Right.
Or you no longer be in that zone anymore.
Oh, Daniel Pink's book Drive has some very disturbing things about why students that get their degrees, why art students never want to do art again after they're done. Because when you pay children to draw, and then you don't pay other children to draw, you just let them draw. There was the ones that were getting paid to do
with money?
Yeah. They're given rewards. They were given rewards.
Okay.
With the extrinsic reward in the research virtually destroyed the tendency to do it for the joy of doing it. Yeah.
Extrinsic. Yeah. Steve Houston talks about the extrinsic versus intrinsic rewards and how damaging the extrinsic ones can be if that's.
But when you work so hard to meet that goal and that's all you do, then when it's done, it's I'm done. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah. That's why those first few companies failed, right?
Yeah.
It was all just extrinsic rewards.
Well, it's good talking with you about this.
Cool. Nice to have you, Marshall. In the next episode, we'll talk about state of the art.
State of the arts, yeah.
Not like state of the art meaning the best of the best, but like the state of the arts.
Yeah.
What we're seeing with the artists.
Yeah. It's a rough time.
Yeah, it is a rough time.
Okay.
This is an awkward intro.
Awkward.
Well, it creates
Just a little taste of what you'll get in the next episode.
Yeah.
See ya.